First, the concern of political instability inside of Russia following a defeat in Ukraine.
So Preston here is talking about what would happen if Russia lost in Ukraine, not predicting that they will lose, but talking about the consequences that are discussed. And some people are concerned that maybe we shouldn't be helping Ukraine too much because if they win, bad things will happen. And the first thing he talks about is the idea that there would be political instability in Russia. Now, I'm not hating on Preston in any way here. I just want to add something to this. Now, Preston, on this point, says we just shouldn't be worried about it, right? That there's nothing we can really do to affect it. Instability is going to occur. And he said the Europeans aren't worried about it. So there's kind of this idea, just we shouldn't be worried about it. It's not our problem. Nothing we can do about it. I would go a little further with this. Research into the survival of political leaders, especially that done by my colleagues Bruce Mesquita, Alistair Smith, Randy Siverson, and James Morrow. There's a lot of them names there. They looked at this largely because they noticed that people lose wars all the time. A lot of leaders lose wars and nothing happens. And it turns out that authoritarian leaders do a really good job of surviving defeats. And so when we try to say what would happen if Russia lost, we sometimes project our political system onto Russia. And we're not thinking in terms of, look, Russia is an authoritarian regime. It has a small coalition. Putin has a small set of supporters that keep him in power. And it's small enough that he stays in power by paying these people off, right? That they stay, they get private benefits. And so it's not how he runs the country, it's how he pays off supporters. The war in Ukraine has been, to my mind, has been very much about tightening Putin's control over the country, right? And minimizing the number of people he has to satisfy and solidifying his power. And so, the war provided the opportunity for him to shut down alternate media, to shut down political parties, to put a law in effect that if you criticize the military, which can be understood in a lot of ways, you go to jail for 11 years, to tighten the control over the economy in the name of war production. So now he has more private benefits to bestow on different people, right? And so honestly, I look at it and say everything that's happened in Ukraine has tightened his control over Russia. So if he loses in Ukraine, he doesn't lose from the point of view of his domestic control, and because he's already been able to put all of these measures into effect. So this is the thing. I think that we shouldn't be as worried about political stability in Russia. It's about Putin, and it's about his control, about him keeping people in position. And, dictators, just not for nothing, Anwar Sadat was assassinated during a parade that celebrated the Egyptian victory in the what they called the Ramadan War, or the Yom Kippur War on the other side. And, you might say, what victory? They got their heads handed to them. Well, they interpreted it differently because he was an authoritarian leader. His supporters, his coalition of supporters are ride or die with him. And so they are going to reinterpret what happened, not like in a democracy. In a democracy, if our leaders fail us, we throw them under the bus. Winston Churchill, you did a great job in World War II, but you're out, right? And so it's a very different system and different incentives and different accountability, right, between the two systems. So that's the thing. Why shouldn't we be worried about political instability in Russia if they fail in Ukraine? Because there probably won't be any as a direct result of Ukraine. It will come from internal factors, most likely if Putin falls into ill health.